My name is John Alexander, and I'm running for North Carolina Senate District 15. And the reason I'm running is I've lived in this town all my life. It's been mighty good to me, and I feel like I've got some time and expertise to give back. I'm a small businessman. I operate a company called Cardinal International Trucks. I've been working there all my life. Started there when I was age 12, counting nuts and bolts for 50 cents an hour, and I'm still there now. And we've got a good company, and it's a successful small business. And I feel like sometimes the state legislature could use a small business mentality in how they spend their money, and also be able to take care of all the different people and things and needs and stuff that they've got to take care of. That's what I do in my business. Obviously, the hottest button we've got in North Carolina right now is education. K through 12 needs to be enhanced. I mean, one of the things we need to do is try to make sure that our students stay in these schools, because if they drop out of our K through 12 and go on the wrong track, then they take some bad situations, and sometimes it can be very expensive for the economy if they take the wrong paths. And another thing we need to work on is our vocational education. Years ago, I worked with Wake Tech, and they called me and asked me to work on the foundation to try to increase that. Well, we did. We started, when we got there, they had $6,000 in the till. And over the next couple, 3 years, I think it was, we raised $2.7 million in the Wake Tech Foundation, and provided the seed money for them to be able to open up their 401 campus. When my daughters were in Lacey, Daniels, and Broughton, I was instrumental in putting the very first computer lab in a elementary school. And then when we got to Daniels, I started something called the Dad's Lunch Bunch, where we had fathers would come there every week and have lunch with their kids. And that worked out really well. I went once a week myself. And then when we got to Broughton, they had a hodgepodge of computers. And we started something called Challenge 2000. And we raised, I think, a little over about $1.5 million to put computer labs in Broughton and have our own tech support person. And we did all of these projects through public-private partnerships. We had Wake County come in and would do something, and then we would raise money too. And the school board was tickled to death to see parents come in and want to have that involvement. These are the things that I think that I can do. I care about the community. I worked a lot with the YMCA's, and not because they're a great swimming gym, but for the things that they do for the people in the community who need a hand up and a helping hand, and to be able to do to turn themselves into productive citizens. Because everybody wants to be, and just sometimes they just need a little extra direction. So those are sort of my loves and my passions, and that's why I'm running, because I think I can bring this whole package of me to the General Assembly and work across the aisles and do whatever needs to be done to try to make North Carolina a better place to live. I'm not really sure. I really don't know all the different demands that we're going to have next year. And so I just have to look to see what's going to go on and to see what the requirements might be. Obviously, reduced taxes is a great thing, and a lot of our middle class people just cannot afford to keep paying more and more taxes, because not only do they get taxed by the state, but they get taxed by the federal government, and they get taxed by every local establishment and other governments too. So lower taxes are great. I don't know exactly what we're going to need to do. One of the programs that I would love to see expanded more is a program that's already in state government that's called ncthinks.nc.gov. This is a website that's already in the state of North Carolina system among the state employees, where they can go online and submit ideas about how to reduce the expenses of state government. Most state employees do not know that this program exists. And there's something wrong with that when they don't know of a program that exists where they can participate personally in the savings that they suggest. And so I would love to see some reductions in the spending of state government taxpayer dollars. But you can't do this from the top down. You've got to do it from inside and from the top down. But this would be best done by state government employees so that they can benefit from this too. I would like to see that program enhanced. There is a website there. It's just not very well publicized, and you might want to check it out, ncthinks.nc.gov, and to see what's there. And then I think as we get into what we've got going on next year, then we may have to make some adjustments. But I wouldn't want to say that you would change things now without knowing what the necessary expenditures may be. But obviously, we've got to continue to support education, and we've got to recruit jobs. I think the film industry needs to be looked at like any other industry that may be coming to North Carolina, and maybe you even look at them on an individual film basis. I think you have to look at it on a cost-benefit basis, on an individual basis, to find out what is this going to cost us, what are the benefits we're going to get short-term and long-term, and is this worth it for the taxpayers of North Carolina? I think fracking is going to be part of our future. I think it's going to be done safely. I think it's going to be done well. If we want to be energy independent, we have to be able to use our own resources. Fracking has been going on for decades, I'm told, and it can be done successfully. And if done successfully without any type of environmental damage, I think it should be something we should pursue. I think the current General Assembly did a good job. I know a lot of people on both sides of the aisle up there, and I think based on all the different requirements and all the different groups that they deal with, I think they did a good job last year, and I look forward to working with them next year and also working across the aisles. I know Josh Stein and Dan Blue, and I know Tamara Barringer, and I know Chad Barefoot, and lots of people from other parts of the state. And I think basically they're all good people and all trying to do the right things. And then we get lots of different opinions, and all good opinions and ideas are welcome to come up with the best ideas for the state. We go back to education. We need to make sure that the educational system that we have in North Carolina, K through 12, vocational, and higher education, are the best that they can be. If we have good educational systems, we help keep our kids in school, we help provide workers for the good jobs that may be coming down the pike, and also we attract good industry, we attract good educators, and we have a base of our citizens who are well informed and being good citizens and taking care of themselves and our state. I'm not really sure. One thing we all have to remember is we are in North Carolina, and North Carolina has more paved roads than any other state in the union other than Texas. We've got more than California and more than all the rest of the states individually. And we got to maintain them. Right now, I think pick a number. I've heard the numbers anywhere from $6 billion, $7 billion, $8 billion worth of bridge and road repairs that we need to have done now. And they need to be done. Now, will this be causing a rise in gas taxes? I don't know. One thing that I've heard people make mention of is trying to tax some of the electric vehicles and the hybrids a little bit, but because they don't pay the road tax that the rest of the vehicles pay. Whether this is a fair thing or not, I don't really know, and I'm not sure how much money that would generate anyway. As we go forward, this is something we're just going to have to look at and try to figure it out the best way we can, and we'll just have to deal with it at that time. I'm just not sure exact right answer for this one. The death penalty is something that's sort of plagued us for a long time. One thing I'd have to look at is what does it cost the taxpayers for a person to go through a trial for the death penalty, and then the various expenses that are involved with automatic appeals and this type of thing, oftentimes with the taxpayers picking up the legal bill, versus the expense of just putting this person in prison for the rest of the life with no parole. I mean, basically, we just want this person away from us. And right now, the state of North Carolina does not appear to be somebody that wants to bring the death penalty back, even though it's legal. It really hasn't helped much, but mostly just want these people away from us forever. And if the least expensive way for the taxpayers is to put them in prison for the rest of their life with no parole, maybe that's the best way to go. I just want them away from people. Oh, absolutely not. No, they don't need a more full-time legislature. I think that they spend enough time in Raleigh as it is, and I think if you had some type of session limits or whatever else to say you guys got to get in and out of town in 90 days, maybe the same things would happen. I don't know, but I don't think we need a more full-time legislature, no. Every morning, I get up and have a cup of coffee with my wife, and I receive a devotional from a fellow named David Lewis. He prints a devotional every night, and I get up and I read it and read my Bible a little bit, and then I send that devotional out to about 90 people. And they send it out to other people, but this is just a good way for me to get my day going, is to read that, and that comes from my friend David Lewis, and I think he says he sends it out to about 800 people, so that's just a good way for people to get their day going. Well, I sleep a little bit later on Saturday morning, I'm happy to say. Get up in the morning. It depends on whether or not the coffee pot's already gone off. If it hadn't gone off, I go punch it off, and we'll go down and get the paper, and sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. Just have a cup of coffee and just enjoy the morning, read the paper, sort of kick back a little bit, and then listen to my wife come up with my to-do list for the day, which might be, honey, we need to get your chainsaw out and go trim this and that and the other, or this bush needs to be planted, or we got to rake the yard, or we got to blow it, or whatever else we need to do. And by the way, there's some dead limbs over there on that tree. So I get to listen to this on a Saturday morning, and then we plan our day and we go about our day and just relax. And a good thing about a Saturday afternoon is that, which goes after Saturday morning, is I get to take a nap. But we have a good time, but my wife and I like to spend it together, just the two of us, just to give ourselves a break from other things that have been going on in our lives. Well, as I enter a potential political situation here, and you told me I can't do my family and I picked my father, I'm going to say Jim Hunt. I've watched Jim Hunt be in state government since, I guess, the early 70s. I remember back then, by 1972, I think my father was his campaign manager at the time, and Governor Hunt said my father was the best campaign manager he ever had. And during that period of time, Jim Hunt and Tom Bradshaw and my father and myself were all working together, to get Jim Hunt elected. And I watched Jim be a governor, 4 different terms. I saw him about 6-8 months ago at a basketball game and talked to him a little bit about it. And I said, I just want to, say, God bless you for what you did. He said, we were builders back then. And that's what it was all about, was a bunch of good business people building North Carolina. And he was very, very instrumental in doing that. Jim worked across whatever party lines there were there. He was a great person to unify whatever groups needed to be unified to get the best thing done for the state of North Carolina. And of course, he pushed education just as hard as he possibly could. And that's one of the things that makes us strong and will keep us strong. And I would love to continue to push education as hard as he did, because it's a terrific benefits for our citizens and our taxpayers to have well-educated people for the jobs and the future ahead. I'm a Republican. I was a Democrat for a lot of years. And then one year I was down voting early because I was going to be out of town, and I got so much junk mail from the Democrats the day before. I said, I'm going to change my party just so I don't get all of that junk mail. Well, I changed, but my wife didn't. So now we get the mail from the Republicans and the Democrats. But the Democrats left what I consider to be the regular businessman. The party changed a lot. And the Republican Party is where I belong right now, because it's conservative and it's trying to do all the right things for everybody. Yes, they have their problems. Yes, they've got their squabbles and whatever else. But the Republican Party is where I belong now because of the conservative principles that they espouse and trying to do good for everybody and get the problems handled, but do it on an economically feasible basis with existing taxpayer dollars without shoving more taxes down the throats of our middle class and the rest of the people in the state.